Welcome along to another Monday Live here at Precision Golf, 6 p.m. If you're a new viewer, this is what we do on a Monday evening. Round up what goes on in the world of golf, hit some golf clubs, have a general chat, and Simon and James are back from their holiday. So we've got the trade show to talk about. How was it?
Warm, actually, yeah. It was perfect weather to be indoors in a convention hall. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
No, it is a busy week, contrary to what everyone believes. And actually, so it's one of those sort of events that not many people know how it actually works. You literally, we have a dinner Monday evening, we had this year, whereas normally Monday would be Accra doing a golf day testing in the morning, test their products out, and then those who take their clubs play in the afternoon, which we don't take our clubs for one round. And then Tuesday's demo day. Orange County National. It's got the biggest range in the US. It's about 350 yard diameter, and you can go around it looking at some of the product. And we use that day in particular to get some recordings done, some videos. And then Wednesday, Thursday in the convention hall all day, and trying to avoid eating the food that's in there because it's horrific.
So we'll get into a little bit more of that in a moment. As usual, we've got the iPad to hand. Now, we've got Neil Zaxton asking, have we got the lease line? Well, the lease line is in the building.
Does exist.
It does exist, but we're not sure it's plugged in yet or not. We had a chap arrive last week, and he talked to me in acronyms about everything technical with the lease lines. I was waiting for him to pause so I could walk away. So we're not quite sure whether it's hooked up or not, but the internet upload speed is better than normal. So we're hoping it's all set. Yeah. In the world of golf, just gone, Torbjorn Olesen wins. Yeah, that's a good win.
He 62, 63 second and third rounds and just holed the world. He looked very, very impressive actually. And it got close at one point, and then he made eagle and just went away with it. Very, very impressive.
Had a funny career, Torbjorn, hasn't he? He sort of dropped off sort of the edge of the cliff over the last 4 or 5 years.
Is he Paris Ryder Cup? Is he Ryder? He's a Ryder Cupper.
Oh, he's definitely a Ryder Cupper. Yes, yeah, absolutely. But he's gone a little bit quiet in the form. Hasn't won for a couple of years.
He was off tour for a couple of years for a misdemeanor.
Oh, was he?
On a plane.
Ah, right.
There was an incident on a plane, and so actually to come back from that.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
To come back from that and to win, is it a couple of times, and certainly if it's not more than just this one, that he's been right up there a few times. Just looks really, really solid.
I'd completely forgotten about that. Yeah, and so absolutely. I mean, he looked like played some great golf, got himself back into shape. In the US, amateur winning.
Well. Yeah, so obviously...
that was when you were on holiday.
Yep. Well, it technically went on holiday at that point. We were kind of in the air.
Got it.
I mean, how impressive is that? I think was it Mickelson was the last, Lowry at the Irish Open, but Mickelson the last one in the US to win. I mean, I like Justin Thomas's comment of like an amateur. Didn't expect to have to worry about an amateur, and he just. That's totally impressive. He was the best. It sounds like a stupid comment. He was just the best player out there that week. Really impressive.
So. Again, just goes to show that amateur golfers are not amateur golfers. I mean, we've labelled them as amateur golfers for a long time, and I think we need to find a way of almost pushing that label aside because they're just not amateur golfers. There's a world tour for amateurs. There's a world order of merit. They're just not amateur golfers. No. They have been playing full-time.
I'm an amateur because I play once a fortnight.
Exactly right.
They're effectively pros in all but earning money. I mean, they're through the college careers, the fitness, the nutrition, the practice, the structuring of their whole lives around it is professional. They just happen to be at school at the same time.
Very much so, very much so. And I think it just goes to show, I think as much as the coaching has come on, I think the fact that we get so much access now to the best players in the world and they get to mimic these players in everything. Yeah. The way they swing, the way they carry themselves, the way they apply themselves. And that's why I think they're the best players in the world really. They know that they're role models and they do have a huge impact on these young players. These youngsters are ready. I mean, I've got a young lad that I coach, Harry, who is 11 years old, and if he was a little bit taller and a little bit stronger, he would be ready to go. He practices a lot. He's got all of the mimics. He knows all of his TrackMan data. It's incredible. We'll get him on the show. We must get him on the show, a bit like Christos. Just grown up in a completely different generation.
And that's the thing, as you say, they know their data. We kind of go, well, it feels like I'm doing that. You'd hit and look at the divot pattern and go, hit your balls down the practice ground or the range, and you'd find a way. But we didn't know what we were doing. Now you know what you're doing to the 0.1 of a degree. You know your spin, you know your flight, you know your yardages. We went, right, let's pace it out, or I hope my stride's right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I mean, Harry was talking about he got fitted, and then we've done some work on his game. He's got just a little bit stronger, and all of a sudden the driver was too high. We've got his launch up. Now the spin rate's a little bit too much, and we've given him a head that's from 12 degrees down to 10 degrees. Yeah. But he was so upset coming in. He says, "Stuart, my driver's wrong. Gave him a different head, and it was like the sun lit up, But it just goes to show he knows what spin rates he should have. He knows what launch. I mean, at 11 years old, it's just
better
insane.
than you which end of the club to hold at that age.
Absolutely. So congrats to Kate, our world champion. And High Rocks Manchester champ winner just recently come back.
Saturday,
This Saturday, just gone back. She beat
PB by, I think, was it 2.5 minutes? 2 minutes? Yeah, which is I mean, it's a lot, but
insane. High Rocks, it's been going for a long time, but it's really starting to get some momentum now, isn't it? And it's something that has grabbed a lot of people from CrossFit. So they've kind of migrated across to
CrossFit sort of weights, and I think the thing for amateurs doing CrossFit is it's like me going to the gym and trying to lift a weight. My tiny little wrists can't deal with anything, let alone some weights. And if you get your technique wrong, you get injuries. So High Rocks is more engine based. You do 8 batches of 1 kilometre runs, then sled push and pull, sandbag lunges, burpees, all kinds of horrific things you do to yourself. I mean, Kate's been doing it, I think, James will correct me, is it 18 months or so now?
Second season.
Yeah, so only in the second season, and we knew when you know someone is very, very fit, and then you see them win a world championship, you kind of realise that it puts a reality on where they're at, and I mean, she's unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable, and can take herself to some very dark places.
Yeah, spectacular performance, and it's great for golf, of course, being fit and healthy and dynamic, and all of these movement patterns.
As you say, the explosive stuff.
Yeah, absolutely good for your golf. So well done to her.
Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be doing a High Rocks.
No, well, I mean, you've had a week
I might do some training, but
you've been lifting up cocktails all week.
I think the other bit that was really good from this last weekend, result-wise, is how great to see Pavon and Højgaard, 1 and 2 at Torrey Pines. They just got their US card, and now they've gone over and then shown them how to do it at one of the biggest tournaments on a US Open course. I thought that was fabulous. Great for them to go and get that result.
And again, it used to be back in the day that the PGA Tour was a real step up. With the Rolex events, the big players coming over and then being able to get into those events. It just shows that there's a different mentality now with golfers, and I think that.
Yeah, that was one hell of a field.
Absolutely,
that's one of their flagship events.
They always get a good, strong field at Torrey, don't they? And the weather can often be quite tricky as well. It gets quite cold,
it was,
depending on when you play.
The first couple of days were pretty horrid, actually.
The
poor dear.
Yeah, I know. Only paying in 20 degrees. So let's see if we've got any questions coming in. Niall McCloskey, hi guys. How do you find Ping 10K compared to the 430 LST? I found the 10K slightly lower spin but higher launch, both 10.5 degrees of loft. This is just before Simon gets into that. This is how we work on a Monday evening. You fire in questions, Simon answers, we hit on the mat, and we invariably get caught up in who can swing the club faster, and the ball starts going all over the place. But that's generally how it works. So anything that you would like us to hit, to test, any questions you have, do to fire them in. We've got James behind the drums there, just coming off a hangover for a week for those cocktails. But he's there as well if you need anything. He's got 2 hangovers by the sounds of it, with those fingers that he just poked up at me. But one for each of them. But anyway, on to the question.
So it's interesting that 10K was lower spin for you than LS, because in theory it should be the other way around. But I think what this really goes to show is, and you look at the other brands, TaylorMade, Titleist, they've all got, each of the TaylorMade models is being used by a tour player. So Rory's not in the LS, whereas Tommy Fleetwood's in the LS and Morikawa's using the Max. In the same way, the 10K is more stable, more forgiving. It's lighter in the middle, more weight back, which all day long you'd say yes, a bit more launch, but a bit more spin. And in theory, the LS would spin less because the weight's forward, but ultimately it's just what works for you. We're certainly seeing a lot of stability on the 10K, which is what it's designed for. I think the thing we're noticing with pretty much all the brands now is where they're going really light in the centre and putting a lot of weight back. There are some players it really doesn't work for, and I'm one of them, in that it can drop the face open. And that's something we're seeing quite a lot. So it might be that the latest heads, the more forgiving ones, actually are less stable directionally for you because weight forward might swing better. So don't always go just for the most forgiving one.
Yeah. Speaking of 10K, shameful plug, just got reaching 10K on my golf channel over on the other side, so do go over and check that out. Anyway, Benjamin
Thought you got to run 10K.
Ogden, I know, don't be silly. Benjamin Ogden, what are the best irons for forgiveness but more traditionally lofted? Most forgiving irons seem loft jacked.
Yeah, they are, and that's almost one of the issues currently, is that you're seeing brands launch HL, high launch irons, because they put tungsten in the sole to get the launch up, and then they de-loft them 2 or 3 degrees, which takes all the spin off. So it's a very good question about getting traditional lofts. You're going to struggle to find traditional lofts. You can get something like the I230 on the retro spec with a 6-iron up around 30 degrees. And obviously the most forgiving heads are all going to be 27, 28 degrees. Mizuno, the 245s, if you can get them weakened off, you might get them up to 29. 28, 29, but that's going to be your limit on loft for most of those heads. I think now you can get away with, in theory, a slightly less forgiving head, like a T100 actually now with the tungsten heel and toe is actually pretty stable. So the I230, that's certainly another one which is definitely good across the face. So you don't have to go quite as forgiving as you used to in terms of head shape. So it's certainly not worth counting out some of the more kind of mid-range sort of forgiving players' heads, because that can help you get the loft, but you might still get the stability you're not expecting.
Very good. John Puckett says, is the balance point on the HBP RPG more like the TR line, or is it the counterbalance shaft?
It's a little higher balance than the TR, assuming you're meaning Ventus TR. So the Ventus TR is not a counterbalance, it's it's neutral, might be kind of marginally up a bit. The high balance on the RGP, you've got me HBP, RPG.
It's like having a conversation with the guy that was fitting the internet in during the week. That's how he spoke.
The RPG HBP is a little higher balance. So yeah, it is going to swing a little bit lighter. It's not a heavily counterbalanced shaft, not like a Nemesis or a Tensei Orange, but it's higher balance than the TR.
Very good. So we'll obviously, any more questions come in, feel free to fire them in. The trade show, it's been going for a long time. Down in Orlando, Florida, International Drive.
Yep.
Big convention centre.
So huge.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking off camera about how 2/3 of it is now clothing, and that's that side of things.
Yeah, a lot of accessories and apparel, holiday destinations. You get a load of buggies made to look like Hummers and combat coloured stuff. And but it is a vast. I think I want to say it's about a kilometre one end to the other. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it is a very, very, very big convention hall. I think the first time you go, you're amazed at how big it actually is.
So what's the agenda for you guys when you go over? I mean, after you've arrived, first day is Monday.
So Monday, so officially it starts on Tuesday with what they call demo day.
Yeah.
So it starts for us. Apart from this year, Acura do a kind of a day at Orange Tree which is a private course there, and they set up in the morning on the range. There's some.
This is on Monday.
On the Monday, yeah. So there's some product talk and going over new lines, what's changing in the lines for True Temper and Accra.
Any cocktails involved in this part of the trip?
No.
No, nothing just yet?
Not yet. That'll be later on in the day. So you go over the product inside, and then go outside to the range to go over a few kind of presentations on the different areas, hit the product. So we'd use that again to do video content. And then they do like a shotgun round of golf in the afternoon.
Oh, lovely.
Which is say for us to take a club for one round is not going to happen.
No.
So we generally then duck out and have an afternoon of slight leisure, or then a dinner organised with someone. Yeah. So that would be the only bit of time off during the week.
That's the Monday. And then the Tuesday, that's when you're on the range,
with
the double range.
Yeah, so it's literally it's a complete circle range-wise. I think
where
it's
is that?
350 yards in diameter. James is being funny about a Craig David song. So go to the range on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so literally you go through pretty much 270 degrees of it. You've got Mizuno and Cobra and Titleist and Ping, and then some shaft companies, some teaching aid companies.
How many balls did you hit that day?
Not that many.
No?
Not that many, no. So you've got the main range in the middle, and then you've got about 4 or 5 little kind of greens at the back where you do. So Vokey did one of the videos with Corey Gerard from Vokey on one of those. So Cleveland and Strixon have one, Cobra have another, and that used to be the day that we would tweet pictures of something that no one had seen before. Wow. Hopefully out in the sun rather than a cold, cloudy, windy day.
It's always windy.
It's always windy.
Always windy, isn't it?
And you just pray. This year was perfect. It was cloudy and it was 20 degrees. So you don't get burned to a crisp and end up that colour, which does happen if it's sunny. And there was one year a storm came through. So, Carl Barks was there. So Cobra got Carl Barks and a couple of long driving guys to come in and do a display. So they do some sort of events. So normally like Lexi Thompson's been there in the past with Cobra. Matt Fitzpatrick was there as well. He was on the stand in the show all on Wednesday morning, signing autographs and things as well. So the brands like to get someone in there just as a bit of a show and tell.
I mean, Golf Live, for those of you that would remember, Golf Live was around for 3 or 4 years, and it was a nice time for people to see equipment. Yeah. There was a bit of a who's who on the range.
That was a public one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. But it was a collection of golf manufacturers in a big environment, big arena, with tour players doing their thing as well. It was a celebration of golf. I mean, whilst this isn't a public event, it's still a bit of a celebration of golf, and it's nice to see the manufacturers getting together, the who's who within the industry. And it's good for people that are retailing the product, that work within the event.
But I think a lot more of that could be done. I think that's where, so there was with Titleist had Brad Faxon and Bob Vokey doing a sort of a media pro sort of chat out on the range. We saw Henrik Stenson wandering around. The Wednesday morning, Brian Harmon was there with Titleist doing a presentation. About, so there is stuff like that going on. A lot of coaching seminars are done, and that's where you see some of those guys. But I think things like that would actually, particularly on demo day, they could do more with it. And I think that's a side I think for me is a bit disappointing that hasn't been moved on. There was noticeably a little bit more space. The exhibitors get charged an awful lot, a huge amount to go there. We go free. If you book in before a certain date, you don't pay. I think we should pay. They charge relatively normal amount, $30, $50 a person. You can then charge the exhibitors less, get more of them in, and then you get more people in, and actually I think potentially make a better show of it, because demo day was noticeably a little bit more spaced out this year.
Interesting. We've got a question in from Niels. He says, what was the most surprising in this year's PGA show for you?
Most surprising? Whether surprising is the right word for it, but I think the most development, the quickest development we've seen from products is, and what I was saying to you earlier, was some of the apps for tracking biomechanics, body parts. So actually from a coaching point of view, biomechanics point of view, where you now don't have to put bits, stick things to you to track your body movement. You can basically hold an iPhone and an app, and it'll show your skeletal structure through kind of, they're already picking up points on your hips, your shoulders, your sternum. and some of the detail and the depth that that analysis can go into, possibly too much, but it can start to show how you're using forces just by the movement of the body and the acceleration rates. And I think that's where, to me, the biggest development in the industry has been in the last year or so.
Interesting stuff. Niall McCloskey would like us to compare the 430 LST and the 10K 430.
Let me get those heads.
Off you go. So Tony, evening guys, how does this year's red Ventus standard shaft compare to a blue Ventus standard shaft from a couple of years ago, if at all?
I might need you to repeat the question when I come back over.
That's fine, I can do that. Richard Skinner asks, can you do a comparison with a Callaway Smoke triple diamond driver with the Nitro shaft and the Ventus TR Blue? They've got us hitting a lot of balls tonight.
Wow, they've making us earn a crust. The first one of the Ventus, was it Ventus Red versus?
Yeah, so blue. So it was a red Ventus standard shaft,
Yeah.
5R, compared to a Ventus standard shaft 5R from a couple of years ago.
Do you mean if you mean the standard, the first generation blue and red?
How does this year's red Ventus compared to a blue Ventus standard shaft from a couple of years ago?
So the initial Ventus line hasn't changed, and that will come. There's an update to the Ventus line coming. Tested it out. It's a Velocore Plus, so they've updated the Velocore material. There's a blue as the first one that's going to launch. Inevitably, there will be at some point a red and a black. But the ones that you're talking about are still in the line and will continue for another year or two, I'd imagine.
So no real changes.
The blue and the red, as they came out originally, are still in the line and still perform exactly the same. As long as they've got the word Velocore on the tip, they are the proper ones. If they don't, then they're not.
Then they're not.
Then they're the stock standard ones that have been used in some of the standard products.
Right.
And they are not the same product.
So you're looking for Velocore if you're...
Got to have the word Velocore at the bottom of the shaft, yeah.
One of our fitters, Mark, there, just cruising around the back. Waiting to get in on the action, are you, Mark? No, you sure? Okay.
And the second one was more a comparison.
That's it, there's a comparison, yeah. And we've got Mauser, evening chaps. Given the success of the US collegiate system in producing players, why aren't we able to do something similar in Europe?
I think some of it is...
in the UK, it's weather.
Well, yeah, and in Europe as well. Some of it is they can go to any part of the country. They don't need visas. They don't need passports. The colleges are so well funded. There is so much funding for the golf, what would you call it, divisions. It's a big thing. Yeah, it's a big thing in the US to donate to the college, and you get a room named after you or whatever. But they donate a huge amount of money to the universities, and that funding is just very hard to achieve here, as well as the year-round golf. And because it's established now in the US that's where the best players go because of the structure of the system, it's just very, very hard to compete.
Yep, agreed. All right.
Right. Gotta get the old...
Well, yeah, I mean...
This could hurt.
You've had a week's worth of buffets.
Standing around. Yeah, this is the problem. Actually, you come away from that week with a stiff lower back because you stood around talking.
Yeah, well, standing at the bar is not good for your back, is it?
Well, we used to, when we were younger, we used to go out in the evenings. Now we had dinners with Ralph, who runs Oban, Victor, who owns VA Composites, another one Monday evening with a group in the States. Actually, we'd really quite like an early night. I know, woe is me. You get the violins out. So I'm going to start with the LS.
Lovely.
So both of these are 10.5, just so we're using the same head, because we've got the 10.5 in the 10K. A little high on the face, but...
Robin Morton has asked, while you're hitting balls, can you show me why the right elbow is going behind me? Thank you. I will do that after you've done that. Yeah, no problem.
Right. Little bit heel side. But actually, for a slight heel side strike, that stayed at 2,500
bad at
spins,
all, is
so
it?
not bad. Let's do one more of those.
Some nice attack angle.
So the first one I got a
pathways
little
there.
bit low on the face and took a load of spin off, so that had a bit of a knuckle on it. Oh, that's so far out the toe. I've been doing that. Hit a couple of balls earlier.
Well, look, it hasn't had.
I got it. It's a great miss.
Yeah, it's not had a detrimental
Dropped ball
effect.
speed, but kept the spin in check. That was me doing that.
And so those of you out there that keep those numbers up on the screen there, Jay, if you can. Those of you, those of you that are au fait with TrackMan data. Face was open 3.8 to the path.
Rotter of a strike that
So it
saved
should
me.
have had some fade on it, but because Simon hit it out the toe, it kept it dead straight.
Barely
so
hit
those
it on
of
the
you,
face, I think, that one.
those of you that are down the range working on your golf swing, you might want to think about how influential the strike out the heel or the toe is on ball flight, because as we said, that should have had significant bend to the right in the sky, but out the toe.
Yeah. And what it's done actually, that toe strike has kept the flight efficient, so it hasn't really lost me much, even though it was a horrific strike.
So that's the toe strike there. If we pop that up on the screen, Jay, you can see that's the toe. It's been out the toe by 17 millimetres. So top right hand corner, which drags the spin rate down.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say the ping of the low spin heads, the ping head is one of the most stable off centre. So one of the things that we'll see with this is, for me, weight forward swings better.
Yep.
Because I have a little bit of I can get a little bit kind of dropped and under and looped in that way, that weight back can fan the face open for me. So I know that I swing a weight forward head a little bit better because it doesn't drop under as much.
Sure. Very good.
Get the 10K.
So Benjamin Ogden has asked, best iron shafts for increased launch and spin around the 120 gram mark. I used lighter shafts to help this in the past, but everything went left.
Okay, yeah. So I mean that's a great comment. So it shows, that light doesn't necessarily mean higher. It can mean a lot further left. The KBS the 120s aren't bad. I mean the shaft alone, in terms of the way it bends, is not going to create give you an extra degree and a half. The bend profile in steel, particularly that weight or shafts that weight, they're not bending enough. Like on a driver, with how far the centre of gravity is off the shaft, it can bend forward as far as the CG is off the shaft. On an iron, you're looking at minuscule amounts. So the shaft alone won't kick it up through bend profile. Actually, you're better off, if you're really looking to change flight, you're better off looking at the head. Get the shaft to help you time it and strike it cleanly, because that will give you ball speed. You'll get the bottom of the ball, you'll get as much flight as you can from your action, but you're more likely to see head style giving you more flight and shaft. That's actually quite a good one from a swing point of view, because I hit that well, and that's at 2.7 on spin rather than 2.3.
Yeah.
So I've got about 400 revs more spin, whilst a very stable swing out of the 10K.
Yep.
It's got noticeably more spin for me, which is what in theory should happen. I'll do one more. Hit it well.
And I'll just address the
Again, spin.
Yeah, nice shot. I'll address the right arm. So we had a question in Robin Morton, while you're hitting balls, can you show me why my right elbow is going behind me? So when
I'm going to check the other one and get the other heads that we want.
people talk about the right elbow going behind them, they're talking about it going back in this direction or getting trapped back behind. A couple of areas that you would want to look at. First of all, hip rotation. Hip rotation makes the chest rotate. So if you're short in hip rotation and you move laterally, that means that you'll get short in shoulder rotation. Now, if you're short in shoulder rotation and you want to keep your arms in front of you, you'd have an incredibly short backswing. So that's where you tend to see the arms overrun, because you're short in hip turn. Now, all of a sudden, I increase hip turn. Now I can get the handle more out in front of me. The other reason why you might get a right elbow that comes back is because when the right hand is too strong, it sits too much underneath the golf club. It will tend to make your right arm try to rotate internally. And when the right arm rotates internally, it normally gets sucked back across the body, because you would never take the arm out this way, internally rotated, because you just hit too much down on it. So Make sure that that right hand doesn't get too much under. Make sure the right hand sits a little bit more on top. And then what you want to try to feel is a little bit more external rotation, which will make that right elbow kick a little bit more in front of you. The right elbow is simply a symptom of what's going on with the handle. So think about a little bit more external forearm rotation, and then add a little bit more hip rotation, and then before you know it, you're in a pretty decent top of the backswing. So either forearm rotation or a little bit of hip turn will cure your right elbow coming back behind you.
Speaking hieroglyphics.
There you go. There you go.
Right, so I've just got the AI Smoke Triple Diamond, and we've got the Ventus TR Blue.
These names, what are they all about? Smoke Triple Diamond. I mean, I love them.
Yeah,
I love them,
the smoke, the bottom, yeah, it kind of is meant to look like kind of smoke. I mean, there's someone very unkindly said it looks like a kitchen surface.
Granite worktop.
Which, you know, they're all unique because the pattern of the way that the forged
I love the look at it. I think it looks great.
It's a good looking head.
Yeah.
I think particularly behind the ball.
Yeah.
So,
It's a great looking head.
So, low spin head. So you're going to hit the TR Blue first. And then, yeah, let you know what we see from a. I think also, you know, how each of the two shafts swing. I've got the Nitro low. We do have the high in the same weight, so if you prefer me using one versus the other, let me know.
Nice drop kick there, lovely.
So this is fair to say, neither of these shafts' balance point particularly suit me. They're a little bit higher balance than I play, so I'm going to have to adjust myself to
the adaptability of your golf swing. So Tony has said, had a full bag fitting with Simon in December and received my clubs last week. Thoroughly enjoyable experience throughout and couldn't recommend the team enough. Tony, lovely. Thank you so much for sharing.
Tony. I always get slightly concerned.
Yes, that's right. I had a fitting with Simon.
Well.
Yes,
yeah.
I got the clubs home and I decided to give up the game.
Yeah. So the one thing with the TR series is the TR material, there's extra weave in the butt section, which definitely stabilises the feel through the top part. It's quite a tight, solid feeling shaft. That's right out the toe, but that's just not gonna spin, that one. Yeah. So basically, I'm going to do one more because that's not my fine.
So we've got Tom Ashmore, evening gents instead of evening gets, but I understand it was evening gents, Tom. Did you see the new Mizuno ST Max driver? Any initial thoughts?
Yep, we saw it. We have hit it. I think it is a very stable head. Actually, the spins very solid, very consistent. You know, actually, dispersion-wise, actually off-centre, pretty good as well. It's quite a heavy head, so that's the one thing I think from a versatility point of view might make it a little bit challenging for some fits. The only thing we saw with both of the Mizuno heads this year, it may just be, and we had a brief initial test with them, is there quite as much ball speed as a couple of the other heads? There are a few heads this year that seem slightly less ball speed from a smash point of view than previous models.
Interesting.
So, you know, as we see more and more people in the bay, it's not just, Matt hitting one is sort of different than me, and but I'm not seeing necessarily as much ball speed out of all the heads as last year. I think off-centre performance, like this one out the toe, does not knuckle it anywhere near as much as the Paradigm version did. And so this is a much safer head from that point of view. So definitely improved that aspect on a lot of the heads. I don't know if they're quite as quick. Now we are talking about a mile an hour or so it's minimal.
Yeah. Be interested to see when it comes in the studio, when people are hitting them and you're testing them. It'd be interesting to get an update on those. And when do you think they'll hit the shops?
The Mizunos, we should. I think they're normally slightly later. I hope we've not talked about something when there's a embargo. I'll have to check that.
Yeah.
But they're normally slightly later with the woods. I'd have to double check that. I think likely back end of Feb.
Sure thing. So we've got Tom Ashmore. Done that. Tartan Army Boy, fantastic, great name.
Where are they from?
Good, yeah, who'd have known? Good evening, gents. Great show as usual. Would be interested to see a comparison of the Callaway Max D up against the standard Callaway with the weight setup adjusted. If possible.
Okay. I assume you mean adjusted into the draw setting on the standard one. But I'll do that. I'll do this now.
Yep.
So Nitro is the stiffer profile. So you've got the red power range and the Nitro range. The Nitro is the more recent addition to it. Definitely a little tighter, firmer feeling all the way through. Not dissimilar balance actually to the Ventus Blue. Quite similar shafts in terms of the feel to swing.
Yep.
Both certainly feel like you can give them a bit of stick. That's just over there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not hitting the fairway that much tonight.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's,
Well, that's what happens when you've had a week of buffets. So right.
It can't get the stomach through.
Yeah. Robin Morton, thank you. Keep up the good work. You're welcome, Robin. Mauser 63. Question for Stu. Currently struggling with an aggressive into-out path, which I'm struggling to neutralise. Any tips or drills to help with this and to stop the hooks? Well,
I'll very quickly just to slightly, if anything, it's a slightly tighter feel at impact, whereas the Ventus TR is a little bit, maybe feels slightly firmer under the handle, is marginal. For me, this launches a hair lower. Outside of that, spins, maybe the spin off the Ventus TR for me a little bit lower. So marginal variations on launch and spin. Don't buy one without testing.
Yeah.
Neither are cheap.
Just to give you a drill there, Mauser 63, your club path is simply reacting to your face to path value. So if you're able to work with a TrackMan or some form of radar, you will see that the face to path value is the issue. So when you have a path that is aggressively from the inside, it's because you're seeing the ball bend away to the left. A great drill to offset that and to confirm whether it is your face to path, which it absolutely is. Take the golf club and grip it with the face 45 degrees open. Then set yourself up so you're taking your usual grip. Then set yourself up and make a swing. The first swing you make, when you approach the ball from the inside, you'll see the ball bounce off the sidewall. So go steady. Then what will happen is the next swing, still with it 45 degrees open, grip the golf club. Then make a swing and then try to get the ball not to bounce off the sidewall by trying to swing outside in. And to help you, just bump the ball forwards a couple of inches. Then what will happen is that your path will start to come outside in. That will confirm that it's your face to path value that you need to fix. The reason why I say that is because most people will always want to work on the path line before they ever work on the face to the path line. So now you know that the face is too closed to your path. It's then up to you to decide what's causing that. Is it your left hand grip at address or is it your right hand grip at address? That would be my first port of call. Check your grip. Either make it much, much weaker in your right hand or make it much, much weaker in your left hand. That will change your face to path, and before you know it, your path line will be back to straight. But what you will experience is a less distance because you're going to add more dynamic loft to the golf club. It will go a bit higher and have a little bit more spin, but you will then be able to get that back into the golf ball because you'll now be able to hit more down, because as soon as a golfer is inside, up and to the right, they invariably have no attack angle. So there's a few things in there that hopefully will give you the direction that you need to go in.
It's a font of knowledge.
Who knew?
Right. AI smoke standard in the draw setting and the Max D. So the one thing that I've noticed, I think one of the most impressive products this year is actually, I think, is the draw bar set in terms of how draw bar it actually is. So, because this one sits in its neutral position, I'm not put a draw bar in the hosel setting. Sits really pretty square. You're just relying on that sliding weight into the into the heel. Now, one of these being drawbars, the one I'm swinging today, I might keep straight.
Yeah, so it was the Callaway that you said that it's such a strong draw bias golf club, right? For all those people out there that have got a little bit of a Virginia way.
Yeah, definitely. And so that shows, I mean, considering how far right I'd be missing. And actually this head does, because of the weight back, I find opens up a little bit on me as well.
Yeah.
So let's do one more of that.
Benjamin Ogden asks, where would his TSR2 rank in the 10K spectrum, as it seems very forgiving?
Yeah, Tyler's actually slightly funny, because I tried to get exact numbers on MOI for TSR3, and they don't actually give them out. They haven't, from what I understand, they test in one plane, but actually they don't have the equivalent of a 10K comparison. So it is something they're working on getting. TSR2, I think is, again, in terms of consistency across the face, is very, very good. It's where it's also good is it's quite balanced heel to toe. So some heads are very good out the heel, some are better out the toe as a miss side of things, whereas I think the TSR2 is very good across the face. So for example, Callaway historically on the triple diamond, if your miss is in the heel a little bit, it's brilliant for keeping spin down. But the paradigm, if you put it anywhere near the nose, the toe end of the head, it's lost all the spin.
Wounded
yeah, whereas the pings, historically a little weaker out the heel, but great if you're a toe miss because it retains a bit of flight. So most heads have a pointedly better miss, whereas the TSR2 is pretty good across. So the exact number, I don't have to hand, I'm afraid, but it's certainly from a consistency point of view, over the last year or so, we've seen some great results with it.
Another question in from Alexander Ward. Evening, gents. Evening, Alexander. What are some things to look for when deciding if you're using the right grip size? Currently use a mid-size but still struggle to get a solid grip. Worth trying or likely other issue?
So I think one thing to look for in particular is if it's getting too small, you'll like to see wear marks, so the thumb wearing heavily and a kind of a tearing, if you're playing a leather glove, a tearing on the heel of the club, because that's where, if it's too small, I'm going to grip down here. James is pointing me in the right direction. If it's too small, it can move around, so that can rub and wear that part of the handle. And the thumb can create a rub because you're having to clamp down to hold onto it. So if you're finding that there's a lot of overlap, the tips of your fingers into the pad of your thumb, then the grip can be too small. Sometimes actually some people just have a very, very tight grip, and that also can, ironically, lose a little bit of fluidity through the hands, a little bit of stability. But generally, you should be able to feel kind of mid pressure on the grip and keep control of it. It might be something just depending on trying to think where Alexander's based, but next time you're in the area, just pop in and we can have a quick look.
I think a lot of the time as well, when you're feeling like you can't get a purchase on the club, a lot of the time that if you're a right-handed golfer, your left hand, it might be too much across the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
When it's in the palm of the hand, it's just weak. You can't grasp it enough, particularly at the top. So I would look at trying to get your left hand a bit more in your fingers of your left hand. That'll always give you a feeling of a bit more security.
And if the grip's a bit big, then you have to get it into the palm of your hand to get your fingers round it. You want it to be, again, sort of go back to that camera, James is going to hate me for this. You want it to be, let me know where, want it to be sat just underneath the pad of the heel of the hand there and not in the middle of it. Is that visible? Yep.
In the palm of the hand is the devil's work.
Yeah.
Makes it super weak. Radhika says, just joined the live session. Hope you had a good break. Not too many Monday blues.
Still wearing this colour?
Sorry? Radhika wore a very bright yellow.
Lurid, yes. I think is the phrase.
So those of you who are not familiar, we run a winter league here.
That is what's impressive with this head, because that one, face to path, has gone from open on the other heads to 3 degrees shut on this one.
Right, yeah. Yeah, nice.
that is why this is, I think, I think this is going to be absolute
Killer for a head.
killer this year. Yeah.
So we run a winter league one Thursday every month during the winter months. We play some some golf courses on Trackman, sponsored by our trusted travel partners at Golf Escapes, and Play for a Holiday. And Radhika came down and was wearing a very bright yellow shirt.
Yes.
And
Stuart was very jealous.
Yes, very jealous indeed. But also, we are running an event to Costa Navarino in May.
Yeah.
Team Challenge Trophy. If you want to find out more about that, there's 5 teams heading over. Myself as captaining a team, Simon is. We've got some tour players, Lewis captaining up teams. TeamChallengeTrophy.com. Go over and have a look at the website, and you can find all the information and how to enter there. So do check that out.
Yeah.
There's some spaces still going on that. Who have we got here? So we've got Mark Sefton. Evening, Mark. Hi, Ben. Hi, Ben. Not sure who Ben is, but we're here. Hi, Ben. Simon fitted me into Project XIO shafts this summer, and I've finally lost my big left miss whilst coming down 15 grams in shaft weight. It's a really stable shaft for me. So good.
Yeah, a combination of a little lighter dead weight and balancing the bottom end, that helps get the handle leading rather than chasing and flipping. So that old adage of heavier, stiffer stops it going left is completely wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Steve Darrington, how could you help with iron fitting being tall? I use 1.5 inch longer shafts with 3 degrees upright lie angle. Fitting options rarely match my specs. I'm worried when built will have wrong swing weight feel.
So we've got a number of heads that we can get lighter to check the specs on longer length. So Ping, Mizuno, TaylorMade are 3 of the ones we have heads that are slightly lighter weights to cater for longer than standard. And we've also in a pretty much every shaft on the rack we go to 38 inches. We've got something go 38.5. So at the kind of lengths you're talking about, there are very few options that people are going to have at that full length. However, what you can do, so if we were looking at if 1.5 inches over standard was the right length, we can still spec it around a 7-iron length, around the 38.5 inch shafts that we've got here, and that's easily extrapolated out to the rest of the set. So it's very difficult if you're that tall, because there are realistically the amount of options that we're going to have on the rack. We need them so irregularly that they are limited. However, that's where our experience over the last 19 years, longer if you Mark, comes in to know the best way to balance up getting the right spec for you.
Yeah, very much so. Golf Nerd, what do you think of Billy Horschel bending all his clubs to the same lie angle as his 4-iron favourite club at the time? Would you ever try? Would you ever try this with anyone?
No, he's an absolute nutter.
But I think you'll find that Billy is doing that because that's a swing mechanics change that he's working on, because he's trying to lower the handle a bit more forward flexion in his posture. I think that's more of where he's going with when it comes to that lie angle change rather than the golf clubs need to be that way.
There's no physical way that all the clubs can be the same lie angle, considering your 4-iron through pitch wedge are going to be best part of 2 inches difference in length. It's just not. It's unless you're a contortionist and have different swings for every club in the bag, different postures, then you'd have to be like Keegan Bradley in the pitch wedge, and then stood in a neutral posture for the 4-iron. So the reason the lies progress is because the shaft gets shorter and steeper in the unless you're using a Cobra 1 length set. Yeah.
So absolutely. So we've got horse racing legends. Could you hit an Apex Pro 21 or MB with a Nippon Modus 3 120 Tour S shaft?
Certainly can. In the meantime, let us know what you want it to show. Is there a question regarding the performance of that combination?
Yes, do let us know.
The MB
horse
was
racing legends. Mauser, thanks Stuart, we'll give that a go. My pleasure, Mauser. Norwegian Warhound is in the house, Simon. He has no questions today, though. That's a bit disappointing. Just soaking it all in. Cheers, guys. Mike T, are you introducing any new products from the show?
There's most of them we had already seen. There are a couple of potentially There's a sort of a grip we may add in, depending on their distribution channels. There is a new brand of shafts that are being launched that might be interesting. They've only got a couple of models at the moment, but that might be interesting. The new products are sometimes still in kind of not quite concept form, but they're testing the waters a little bit. They're using the show to speak to people and see what kind of interest levels there might be. So the newest stuff we might see a little bit later in the year potentially. So let's say now we tend to find that we've seen everything that's able to be added immediately, and it's just whether something filters in later in the year.
We've got 10 minutes left, so do get those questions coming in. We will do everything that we can to answer them, and we'll cut them off at the right time, but we will, anything in, we will answer, so do keep those coming in. Richard Skinner, thanks Simon, great show. A little bit disappointed that Richard hasn't thanked me as well, but he does say something nice at the end of this message. Where else can you make requests to see shafts and head combinations in real time? An expert golf tuition. So he came back at the end.
Absolutely.
It was very, very good. Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Well, it sounded like you were saying she sells seashells on the seashore.
Oh, there
I'm
you
amazed
go.
I got through that.
Yeah, you did very super well there. Rednall Combat. Evening, guys. Recently started following your content and really enjoying it. Keep it up. Cheers, Craig. And if you are enjoying this content, do give us a like, and why not tell one of your friends that we do this every Monday night at 6 p.m. It'd be great to have more of you along and enjoy the experience. Mike Cook, any info on the Project X VR TX iron shafts?
So they're currently, well not currently, they're only going to be in parallel tip, but they're nice shafts actually. There's a little bit for graphite, there's a little bit of bounce in the tip. Decent value option, they're in a 60 and an 80 gram, I think. Off the top of my head, they're definitely an 80. I think it's 60 and 80 currently. You know, a good value, for a better phrase, aftermarket option. You know, really nice profile, a little bit of responsiveness, but solid fitting shaft as well. So yeah, nice shafts.
Brilliant. Tony R. Stuart. He has the opposite to Mauser 3. I have an excessive out to in path which I'm struggling to neutralise. Any tips or drills to help me stop slicing the golf ball? Yes, I do. Let me just quickly do this. So
You just want to hit the blade, didn't you?
no, absolutely not. I don't. So I'm going to get myself down on the floor here, okay? This is your slicer's dream, okay, to get rid of. Imagine doing a press up, okay? My left hand, I'm going to slide the club in underneath my left hand. And so, imagine trying to do a press up on the club shaft. Now I'm going to lift the club shaft up off the ground. And then I'm going to walk into the camera. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grip it with your fingers. And at that point, now when I walk back out, can you see this kink here in your left hand? It's not like that. That could be perceived as a strong left hand. But this here, where it's in the pad of the hand, fingers on, this, my friend, will cure your slice like that. And if it doesn't cure your slice like that, what you then want to do is get it in your left hand, take the club shaft and lay it to the left, and then make some through swings. And then what you'll start to learn to do is make this left shoulder sit down more, and make this left forearm externally rotate with that good grip. And that will, every day of the week, cure your slice. Promise you. And if it doesn't, email me at scartwrightgolf@gmail.com and I'll give you the reason why. And that's
And
good
you know,
golf
also,
coaching.
if you do that on every tee, you'll end up proper hench as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you put your grip on the golf club in the right manner.
I was intrigued to see where you were going with that one when you got down on all fours. I thought, all right, this is a new one on me.
So just grip the golf club and lift the club head up. What we all need to understand is that the golf club head weight, this is heavy, this is light, is trying to do that through a golf shot. So now just push down. So what your grip should be able to do, the pad of that hand should be able to offset that pressure. Whereas if it's running through the palm of the hand, it can't do that. But not only that, it then makes the face wide open. So if you don't put your left hand on the golf club in the right manner, you are immediately behind the 8 ball. And I've actually videoed this today. I had a client come in. He was 9 degrees outside in, and he was 8 degrees open with his club face.
Ooh,
I changed his left hand, and he went from face open 8 degrees to back to 0, and his path went from 9 outside in to 3 in one shot. It's going to be a video coming out.
Whose hand did you give him? Because if we can sell that, that'd be amazing.
but it just shows the power, and you know, we've been so poorly educated on how to put the hands on the club right first, and I think it's where it all goes wrong from there.
I think Mr. Horse Racing gave...
yes, he did. Yes, I've changed, he said, so Mr. Horse Racing is there. So he said, yes, I've changed on advice from ST Pro with 105 regular rifle shafts. Right. Swing speed on a 7-iron is 90 miles an hour.
Okay, yeah, so there's a lot of speed. So certainly going from 105 to the 120. So these are actually, they weigh 115. They say 120, but so you've got 10 grams more in the shaft. Definitely a little bit more structure in the bottom of the shaft, so you can use that weight if you're, and this is where if you've got the right weight, you can use the weight to develop speed and keep control. The nip-ons are not that stiff in the handle end, but it's very stable at the bottom. So what this shaft's going to do is, over your 105s, is going to give you more weight to use, but give you a bit of feedback. The weight in the bottom end is going to help create a little bit more of a, for want of a better phrase, a lag. It's going to drop the club in to give you a bit more to hit against. But it's going to feel fairly responsive. And on a blade, if you hit the middle of the club face, it'll go like that. So blade will spin, it'll be weak aloft and will spin more than your ST Pros because the centre of gravity of the head retains a bit more spin. And you will notice every little miss hit on these, but when they're good, they'll feel lovely.
Will, well done, nicely demonstrated. Will M, I need a driver head for a draw hitter, sits neutral at address, maintains low spin. So
now there are two interpretations of this. For a draw, do you want to avoid a draw or do you want to create a draw?
I need a head.
That's the only question.
I need a driver head for a draw hit. So he hits a draw, needs to sit neutral at address and maintain some spin. So he's a draw hitter, so he's looking for more spin. That's how I'm interpreting it.
So, I mean, actually, things like, I quite like for those, TSR3 isn't that low spin. TSR2 isn't a drawbars head, and you can flatten the line slightly. Similarly, I mean, LST is stronger flight, will keep the spin in check, but a knuckle isn't a left bar head. Those are probably, the tightest and the ping, if you're looking for to retain a bit more flight, but a safe spin rate, those are probably the best two heads.
Very good. Liam Hancock, have you guys tried the BR-NR mini driver? If so, what do you think of it? What do you think of it as a second tee club?
So the Burner Mini, the TaylorMade driver, it's a good head. I think the question mark is, with that head, it's never going to be quite as long, or shouldn't be quite as long as a full standard vertical driver. I'd be looking at it as a club for someone who's really not comfortable with the driver and wants to play a shorter shaft and more like a fairway would, but get a bit of the bigger face that a driver head, a kind of an undersized driver head, is going to give you, because it might get a bit too close to driver. So that's where, if you can hit a fairway wood, I know some of the tour guys use it, but you might lose a bit of the gapping and the use off the fairway with that head. So I'm not so sure about it being a second driver. I would see it more as something which is a great club if you're someone who traps it a bit and isn't a great driver for the ball. Yeah.
Benjamin Ogden, in a fitting, do you ever find a stock shaft to be the best option for someone as opposed to an aftermarket one?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, particularly with irons, because a lot of the, something like the nip on the Modus is a stock shaft for a lot of the brands, and their steels can be a little bit. There's a bit more of a margin to make them work well or not. Graphites, I mean, you're getting to driver a little bit more specific in terms of the swing styles they suit. But you've got things like the Hasdus Black Gen 4s. They're a good shaft. The Kylie, Mitsubishis, the Whites, they're a stock shaft for some, or have been. So yeah, where we can, ultimately the best shaft is the one that works best, whether it's a £400 upgrade or a stock shaft. However, it has to be built correctly. So again, whether a top grade shaft, aftermarket shaft, or a stock shaft, what you test has to be built the same way for it to work. And that's where most players find, start that one again. Most players find a drop in performance versus a test club that they've hit, because the one that they receive, the tolerance on balance or loft or something, it just won't swing the same, and then ball goes all over the place. So you've got to get the build right to back up any fitting and any product.
Yeah, no, and I think that can't be underestimated.
No.
I mean, when you think about the volume that a manufacturer will produce a car at, a golf club at, compared to when you're building, exclusively, two guys in there that are doing it to detail with a fitter that they might come out and ask them a question on a bit of a
the
fitting.
tolerances have noticeably improved from the brands, but there are still, they're aimed for swing weights, they're aimed for new specs, and where they can get as close as possible, that's what they'll do. So they have got a lot better. However, every shaft has a tolerance, every head's got a tolerance, every grip's got a tolerance. So the more you can do to take any of those implications away, the better.
Yeah, for sure. More spin and feel in the T24s or the SM10s?
Oh, well, haven't got the SM10s in to do a direct comparison side by side. So I think it's a slightly subjective one, and I haven't had the SM10s with data to look at the spin, because literally last week was the first time. What did impress me with the SM10s was the lower launch and the stopping power. Actually, I hit a couple of shots which I'm not a good enough wedge player to generally hit, and the ball came out low with some spin, and I believe James got the videoing of it as well, proof. But the T24s are technically, they're a forged head, whereas the SM10s are a soft casting, so they may feel a bit softer for some players, and we saw great spin out of those. So I think spin-wise, it's going to be very, very comparable.
We'll draw the line in the sand. Carl Amick's question. So, can we see a driver off the deck? We'll both have a go at this. Yeah,
there we go.
Exactly.
I'm seeing as it's off the deck,
you're going to use
hit mine. Yeah.
Oh, that's charming.
Leverage any advantage you can.
That's charming. That's charming. That's.
You've got the draw beast.
Yeah.
I can put something together for you.
No, that's all right. That looks like it's got half a decent amount of loft on it. That. I don't mind that.
Right,
that
driver off the deck.
That's all right.
Okay.
Thanks for this, Golf Nerd. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Really,
ability
really
to
good. Really good.
thin one into the bottom of the. Right. So I'd be expecting a slight fade off of this.
Oh, he's done well. He's done well.
Take that.
He's done all right there. Oh my God! Well, you have hit about 3,000 balls.
Yeah. That's a good point. I've done a full.
Yeah, my
warm
first
up
one
and
out the
round,
bag is drive off the deck, and my back is not feeling the best either.
That is a very good disclaimer comment there.
Yeah,
as well.
now I've just got enough in there. Right, come on.
To get it
That's not
airborne,
too bad. It's
impressive.
Not too bad. That's not too bad. Bit down the right wing. Yeah, we won't go any more into that.
They both got airborne.
Yeah,
I mean,
they do. Yeah,
For
exactly.
me, that's quite impressive.
Mark Sefton, my swing weights go from D2.03 iron to D4 in wedges. Is it often said that swing weights should be constant throughout the set? Please explain.
No, it shouldn't. They shouldn't be constant through the set, because swing weights are static balance, and it doesn't take into account how the club's actually swinging in the component. So within a set of irons, it's a good reference point for how they all sort of swing relative to one another. However, as the club gets shorter and the swing speed drops, you need a bit more mass in the club to match the momentum. So the shorter you go, you need more weight to pull the club down into impact a little bit as well. So if your 4-iron and your 9-irons have the same static balance, the 9-iron's going to swing light because there's less momentum achieved through acceleration. So it's got to be pitched slightly to make them feel the same to swing.
Radika asks if the PGA Show covers gadgets, tech like Hack Motion or Arcos. Did anything jump out at you that us amateurs may also use?
For us, because we're looking at the fitting side of things, there is so much there that we can't cover all of it. So inevitably there will be other gadgets and gizmos like the Hack Motion. It's like these apps that are coming out that are going to give all that kind of info, but just display it in different ways. There are 2 or 3 that I saw that had the ability to pick out from an iPhone footage a body part and the limbs and put almost a skeletal structure together, and you could see that swing. I think that as I said, that's where most of the advancements are. I might have missed some of the questions on that, but we from a fitting side of things aren't looking at those bits as a sort of focus, but we do find out about them.
Alf World, I got my old Titleist MBs with a S300 shaft, still got a very high ball, spinny ball flight, even on draws. What shaft Titleist head could help me with that?
So I'm just going to the very start of that. I want to make sure I get the right.
He's got MBs with S300s. His high spinny ball flight, even on draws. What head and shaft might he want to look at?
So look more at head. I mean, the S300, if they're too heavy, is going to get behind you and flip and add a bit of flight. So it's not so much a low spin shaft. It's going to be getting the right weight and balance to get timing and put you in control of impact a little bit more. But certainly, MBs are going to spin more than pretty much any other iron head. So I certainly have Titleist range. T150 would certainly bring loft down a bit, but the spin's going to come down a bit as well. But shaft-wise, it's an impossible one to know for certain.
Yeah. Jay Lee, new TD AI Smoke and LSQI10 just as forgiving as the LST Ping?
Not quite. No, Paradigm Triple Diamond is definitely better off the toe. To any of the low spin heads, you've got to be a good ball striker for. And I think that's one of the things. They are less unforgiving than they used to be. They are not as forgiving as the other heads. So they're better off centre than they used to be. I would still say the Ping slightly trumps them for forgiveness. However, the Callaway has been quite impressive so far. With James and I missing a bit of a week to do some data with the heads as they've come in, I've not seen many in the fitting bay yet. But for my own hitting, I think it's a tough call between the Callaway and the TaylorMade for forgiveness. Ping's still slightly better.
Yeah. Kyle Amick asks, at what point should you stay away from game improvement irons? If spin and everything is good with a game improvement iron, should you really change out of them for less forgiveness? Well, Colin Montgomery didn't.
No, he got to world number 2 with them. So I think it's only really if, with the lofts they're at, you can get some big gaps at the bottom and managing that can become tough. So they can artificially give you a little bit more yardage because of the strong loft and the fast faces and things. You can find that flight control in the shorter irons, because the centre of gravity's back, they can want to flare up. So it's the control aspect in terms of pitch of flight and consistency of trajectory, which, if you're starting to feel like everything's popping up on the shorter irons or actually kind of just controlling distance, a more solid feel you're wanting out of heads, then you could move to a more mid-range sort of forgiving players iron rather than, say, a game improvement.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, that rounds up all of the questions, and as ever, you've done us absolutely proud on being involved and engaging with us on these Monday Night Lives. They really are a lot of fun. I absolutely love them. The lease line is in the building, so and it seems like it's been really good tonight because James has not been sweating at all.
No, actually, some of his greys have turned back to brown.
Absolutely. If you are new to our channel, do consider subscribing while you're here. And as ever, we release regularly 3 to 4 times a week content. Do go over and check out a lot of our playlists and the fittings and live fittings and club reviews that we do. If you've got questions or any ideas that you would like us to cover next week on the Monday Live, all being well, we might be able to get a bit of Zoom action going on next week if the lease line is in. James is frightened at the thought of that.
You should see the look in his eyes.
But I think it's been really insightful to hear about the trade show for those people that haven't been before and didn't know necessarily that it was on. So it's been really great having those insights. Thank you very much. And as ever, thank you for all joining us. We're going to be back next week, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock next Monday.
Yeah. Testing, hitting, chatting, talking golf. From Simon and I, thanks for watching. See you next week.